I wanted. I'm going off of my feelings. How do I feel?
I can do the
I
introduction.
feel cozy. Oh, there you go. Would you like to? Let's have a do the introduction. Okay, ready?
My name is Junior and I'd like to welcome to Erica's channel. Welcome back. Before we say anything else, make sure to like and subscribe. Like and subscribe.
Yes,
because
please.
it's very important for the algorithm to make sure that you understand what's going on here and bring you back here next time there's a new video.
Yeah.
Today's topic is actually quite interesting, isn't it, Erica?
I think so.
What are we going to talk about today?
We're gonna talk about marriage counseling.
It's a tough one.
I mean, you guys all know how passionate I am about marriage counseling. I talk about it a lot. If you guys don't follow me on Instagram, you can also check my Instagram channel. Is it a channel? My Instagram page, where I also talk about marriage and motherhood and just everything that I'm passionate about. But marriage counseling has been like what? The glue. Besides God. God first. But then marriage counseling, I think, is second.
Yeah, no, Kelly's not that important. No, it's definitely quite important, and we're going to touch on some of the reasons why it's not that popular yet in Rwanda and on the continent. But yeah, Erica, how about you tell us about your experience at the beginning of our marriage counseling journey?
Yeah. So I think before we were married, we had done this kind of book study, and what was it called again?
Save Your Marriage Before It Starts.
Yes. Now in retrospect, I'm like, that's a really, really good title. But yes, so we did a workbook. It was Saving Your Marriage Before It Starts. We'll also try to link it somewhere because it's really an amazing, amazing tool. I think we need to revisit it actually, even now in marriage. But that was really the first kind of therapy, but non-therapy that we did, of really having to ask ourselves like hard questions and talk through what we expect in marriage, what are the roles, how do we see ourselves as a wife, as a husband in a marriage, what is it that we've learned from our family backgrounds, like what did we see our parents do, which kind of informs what we hope sometimes our husband or our wife will do or not do. So some of those things are really important to talk about. So that was kind of our like first entry. And with that, we had to do a personality quiz, but also like how we view our values in marriage. And when we did that, we actually met with a therapist who was in the US.
Online.
We did that hour session online.
Zoom.
Yeah, it was a Zoom. And it was really it was amazing. That was kind of very eye-opening for us. But then to be honest, we didn't do it again after that. I think for me, we had our mentor couple who was really close to us. And in our first year of marriage, we had a lot of like 911s and I don't know who this person is. Like, are we really going to be married for life? And we would call this mentor couple and they would help walk us through some of these critical things that were happening in our marriage, which was really helpful. And I think in and itself, that was really like therapy, but not formally, I guess, in a professional setting. So fast forward, I think our very first consistent experience with marriage counseling was actually right after I gave birth to Selah. A few months after that, I really struggled with a lot of postpartum, but I was in denial about it because, I just thought that wasn't going to happen. It wasn't going to happen to me. I was going to make sure I set myself up really well and not have postpartum depression or anxiety hit me. And unfortunately it did. But I was in denial. I had a lot of shame and guilt around it. But I think Junior kind of picked up on some cues, which maybe he can share a little bit later, but he picked up on some cues and I was like, I really think you need to go to therapy. And what I was dealing with postpartum affected our marriage. And I think that's something that's really important to just know is something that you're going through personally, whether you like it or not, is going to impact your partner. And I think it's important to one, go through the journey yourself of healing, but then also understand how it is impacting your partner as well. So that was kind of our first step into marriage counseling, which was not very easy because it opened up a lot of wounds. I think in the beginning, it was kind of like this, we're gonna have this personality test and learn about each other, and we were kind of laughing about it and, oh, this is great. But the first initial therapy sessions were really hard. And I think I walked into counseling like, he's the problem. If we can fix him, then life is gonna be great. And I'm pretty sure he had the same view. But yeah, what about you?
Well, I think it's also worth mentioning, and I think it's quite important to anybody who's considering marriage counseling, that we both had experience seeking some form of mental health before. So she had seen counselors in the past, I had seen psychologists in the past, and which meant that bringing it into a marriage context wasn't a big challenge, at least individually. But it still took a lot of fighting pride and getting over egos to get into the room.
Pride, ego.
And you're right, I went in there saying, I am here to fix my wife, and you can fix our marriage. And then the counselor took a big mirror and put it in front of me. And what ended up happening is unpacking how our personal traumas and experiences and the baggage we bring into marriage affect us, the way we interact with each other, the way we communicate. And as a result, we did a lot of work on trying first by improving our communication skills. I think you can touch on that a bit, which is the foundation of every relationship. As we all know, men are notoriously bad at communicating. I'm going to be honest and say I still am, but there's been a lot of progress since. And that was the necessary foundation to be able to start looking into more important things, deeper things, and starting to fix other issues. I think also one of the things that I got the most around marriage counseling was that people assumed that things were really bad. Marriage is on the brink of distraction because this, again, stigma around mental health is that you only seek it when things are bad, whether individually or in marriage. But we quickly realized that it became a maintenance exercise rather than anything else. And the more consistent we were doing marriage counseling, even when things are not bad, things remain pretty good, right? But again, there's been plenty of times where poop was about to hit the fan, or poop had hit the fan and was flying all over the place.
I like how you're being PG, yeah? I never heard you say poop.
It's sticking half of my brain. I was told there's kids watching this channel.
There's some kids watching the channel, maybe.
So I think there's many times where shit hit the fan, where marriage counseling was really, really good. Because, again, I think being able to have this opportunity of saying, okay, I feel like this is a conversation you and I cannot solve. Let's save it for Kelly, and then we'll take it to counseling. And having a third person who doesn't judge anybody and has an objective point of view really helps solving some of those challenging. So there's a lot of benefits to 9 out of 10 highly recommend.
I actually love what you said about being honest with there's some things that maybe we need a therapist to
help
be in the room to help. Like we can't talk about it just ourselves. And there's times where we've gotten into arguments or going to talk about something, and he'll stop and be like, you know what, I think we should go see Kelly. This was our therapist at the time. I think we should save this conversation for Kelly. And that used to, I was boiling inside, do we need Kelly to make our marriage work? And it was so frustrating for me and really hard. But I think also what he said, now therapy is more of, it's like a maintenance. It's really a check-in. How are we doing? Are we using the tools that we've learned? Because you're always going to fall back into your natural way of how you do things, how you love based on your traumas and your past and all of that. And so it's a nice recentering and getting us back to the same place. I think the second most valuable thing around that too is that if you have conversations when you're not ready to have them, or when you're so boiled and frustrated, you're not going to communicate effectively. So you'll say things maybe that you don't mean. You'll not be able to truly listen to your other partner. And so it's going to be a lot of defenses back and forth. And so I'm actually really, really thankful when I look back that he put a stop on some of the conversations and said, let's have this with Kelly. Because now when I'm in that therapy room and we're having this conversation, of course I'm sitting there like, okay, use I statements. Okay, don't attack. Okay, like take ownership for how I feel, you know? So like I'm having to actually be conscious about how I'm communicating and what I'm saying because our therapist is in the room. But it's not to please her, but it's to actually like put into practice some of these tools that she's taught us. And so I think that's been so crucial. And now, honestly, like I'm okay saying that we need regular therapy to make our marriage work and to make sure that we're on the same line and on the same page. It's kind of like maintenance on a car, right?
Yeah.
You can't just get your car,
You have to change the oil.
You got to change the oil regularly, check up on it, make sure it's doing okay. And it's going to last really, really long. But if you neglect it and then something really bad happens, then you could just explode. I think also the stigma around, you know, and maybe that's part of the stigma of people not wanting to go to counseling of, I don't know, people are going to think that things are really, really bad in our marriage. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I got that. I got that from everybody, including my parents, that every time I mentioned counseling, things were really bad. I think, well, it's a conversation we can go on for a long time, but at some point we'll have to wrap this out and maybe get into more details. I think one thing worth mentioning is that we started off going to marriage counseling, and then eventually we split up and started doing our individual counseling, right?
Yeah.
I think that's also worth mentioning because what you realize when doing couples counseling is that you're bringing two individuals with their own baggage into the equation, and if you take time to fix, for those who did mathematics, each side of the equation to balance things out, it's much more beneficial for the marriage. So we started off as couple counseling, now we're doing individual counseling, and now we're mixing it up, and there's definitely been a lot of growth. The second thing and last thing I'd like to add is that it's a continuous process, right? We're human beings. As you grow old, you evolve. As you evolve, you get wiser, but also you pick up more baggages that makes you slightly a worse human being, right? So you need to be able to balance it up as you evolve, as you grow in your marriage, and you need continuous help. And look at it as help. And I was going to drop the F-bomb. Screw the stigma. Everybody else. To be honest, at the end of the day, what's important for you is your mental health and the health of your marriage.
And your marriage,
and everybody else isn't there when you're having an argument with your spouse or you're having a mental meltdown. Really look after yourself and really focus on what's important.
Yeah, that's good. And I think the another thing too, I mean, there's a stigma of like what other people think, but I think that there's also pride. You said in the beginning, like we had to set aside our pride and our ego. So sometimes there's pride in like, I'm not doing anything wrong. Like everything is good. You're the problem, right? And so I think it's really important to set aside that pride. And again, if we're thinking about it in that way, then at the end of the day, we're attacking. And so if we can remember that we're a team, like what brought us together when we got married, we're a team. And so now if going to therapy is going to be the thing that brings us back together as a team, then that's good. It's not therapy to go and attack the other person or make them see that they're the problem. And I think that's when you have a good therapist, they're able to show you that you both contribute. And how do you take ownership for your feelings? How do you work on yourself so that your marriage can then be better together? And it doesn't mean that I'm doing the work and Junior's doing the work and that's the only way it's going to get better. There's some times where I've carried the weight and done more work in our relationship and Junior hasn't done as much work. And then there's times where Junior's done way more work and I haven't really done much. And so it's not about 50-50, but sometimes change behavior in one person actually encourages another person to also work on themselves and things that they're doing.
I think as a result, you grow up, you evolve, and you mature faster. And I'll take any help I can. Like I said, this is something we can talk about for a long time.
I think so.
Let's
yeah.
save some for next episode.
We'll save some for next time. I think that definitely would love Junior to get back on the channel and talk more about his journey, and especially as a guy. I think one thing that we didn't mention is for us to start marriage counseling, Junior was actually the one that really initiated it and got us to go to counseling. Sorry, we are in a household, so you're going to hear noises, you're going to hear construction in the background, you're going to hear the kettle that's on right now, but we're home and that's totally fine.
Okay.
But yeah, so I think, what was I saying? Baby, help me with my...
You were saying that I'm the one that initiated marriage counseling.
He initiated marriage counseling. And so I think that that's quite powerful, because a lot of times I get messages in my DM like, how did you get your husband to go to therapy? Like, I'm struggling. And I think to that, I really answered, actually, he's the one that got me to go to therapy. But I think that since I was on the other seat, I'm sure that also men might feel this way, and Junior can elaborate on that maybe in the next time. But I think that if you have an agenda to get your partner to go to counseling, and you make that really clear, and you're just saying like, I need you to go to counseling to fix our problem and this and that, then that's going to be
It's gonna
sorry, I'm
facilitate
getting
the
very
process.
distracted.
Yeah, it's gonna facilitate the process. Guys, just find me, write to me.
Yeah.
I'll explain to you in three paragraphs why you should go to counseling, and how it could make your life and your relationship much better.
Yeah.
Right.
But I think don't. What I was trying to say is don't try to push the other person to go to counseling. Instead, why don't you just start going to counseling yourself, and maybe start making some of those changes, and maybe that's going to help the other person also want to go to therapy. So I think we're going to need to do this video again to elaborate more on therapy, but I hope you got some gems. I would love to hear your take on what you think about marriage counseling, and so if you could just share with us in the comments, we'd love to hear that. But please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Boss said to subscribe, so please subscribe to this
Make sure
channel.
you like and subscribe, because it helps you, it helps her,
It helps me too.
and me somehow. I'm here. I'm here for the likes and the subscribes.
Thanks, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.